Journey to Diagnosis.
The journey kind of started with kind of observing Xavier more at school, and like things that we would hear back from his teachers, and like stuff that we would also see at home. He would get like a lot of like really hyper focused and can't like pull him away. Same with his sister to a similar, slightly different extent, but and then kind of as we were going through that process for the kids, we were also, for me, I was also like, this seems really familiar.
I went to a parent-teacher meeting for my oldest son. He was in grade 4. I had asked him to show me his work folder, and it was completely empty. The teacher had brought in a support teacher for us. I had never had that in our years of parent-teacher interviews, and I was shocked that the folder was completely empty. The teacher had expressed how he was frustrated with my son and his fidgeting and lack of attention and disrupting class, and how he kind of just sent him out to the hallway most days. I was really disappointed for my son. The support worker had thrown out the idea of ADHD, and I didn't really know what it was. So I was kind of shocked and maybe offended. And that's how it kind of came to light.
I would say that having ADHD kids where I'm essentially having to be the prefrontal cortex for 2 children in addition to my own, when my own is, kind of terrible and not functioning super well, it just started unraveling, and things that had been formerly easy were not easy as at all. I pretty much knew that I had the diagnosis, but I felt like I wanted to try treatment to see if it could get me out of survival mode and into thriving mode.
I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety for a number of years. I was kind of struggling to do the work thing, the home thing. I felt overwhelmed all the time. I was slowly less able to manage all my responsibilities. And it happened slowly, but it snowballed pretty quick. And that's when the masking just couldn't be maintained. Because it's like having 2 jobs. It's like pretending to be who you're supposed to be and being yourself and nurturing yourself and loving yourself, but you're not getting that much love in response to who you really are, that you're getting a better response from the person who's masking all the time. That's hard.
Well, I managed to make it this far. It's not that bad. Like, what is this really going to improve? Like, what is it going to do for you? What is the diagnosis going to do for you? But the reality is that it does everything. It's what allows you to ask for accommodations. It's what allows you to pinpoint what areas of your work-life balance are just not working for you. It lets you figure out how to outsource things. It lets you come up with like different resources. Like, it really makes a difference when you understand that the blueprint for your life is not going to look like the blueprint for somebody else, because you are 2 completely different machines.
We say ADHD is as inheritable as height, and it wasn't as diagnosed as often in the parents of the kids I see. So having that diagnosis for that child helps them be able to sort of step back and go, wow, I had those same challenges, and it's actually beneficial for me to know. And so they can go and seek a diagnosis and help manage their own challenges they may be having at work or in their own social relationships or family dynamics. So I think knowledge is power. It always helps us to know a little bit more about how our brain works. So I think getting the diagnosis and then having access to the resources that are help is just paramount importance for kids and families. Undiagnosed ADHD can have devastating effects in all areas of life. Yet obtaining a diagnosis remains difficult due to high costs and long wait lists, as well as healthcare, education, and societal systems that fail to recognize or take it seriously. Women and minorities face additional diagnostic challenges, and co-occurring disabilities complicate identification through overlapping traits. Stigma and misconceptions further prevent many from seeking diagnosis and treatment for their struggles.
Once I actually started realizing that this was something that was impacting me in my daily life, it was also a bit of a journey just to even get to the point where I could get a clinician to appropriately diagnose me, because it is not necessarily well understood, and there's a lot of evidence that is newer. Those of us who've been living it can say that none of it's new. It just wasn't a focus of the research. And so because of that, it actually was a bit of a battle even to get the diagnosis. I started talking to my GP, who is someone I would definitely say has a bit of a solid opinion about ADHD that is not aligned with current practices and current understanding and emerging research. She was very much like, absolutely, I don't think that you have this. And so it eventually got to the point where I was telling her, I'm like, I would like to be referred. And she was arguing with me about it, saying, well, it's not an adult onset thing. And I was saying, no, these things have been present in my life since I was young. And now that I see this going on with my kids, I realized that actually this is a lot of what held me back for many years as well. And it finally got to the point where I had to say, so what are your diagnostic criteria for adult women with ADHD? And she said, well, I don't have diagnostic criteria for adults. And I said, is it because you don't make this diagnosis? And she said, yes. And I said, well, then you need to refer me to somebody who has the background and the skills to make a differential diagnosis.
So I started doing some research. I went online and I listened to some doctors talking about the signs of ADHD, and the thing that really grabbed my attention was how ADHD can affect a kid when they're not supported in their future life. So that was enough for me to call my family doctor. I called my family doctor and asked him his next steps for us, which was a recommendation to a pediatrician. That was the beginning of a long process. To get a diagnosis is just so lengthy and so many loopholes. We waited, I think, about 3 or 4 months before the pediatrician reached out. And then it was a couple of months of filling out forms, having meetings, and coming to the diagnosis. It took 4 appointments to get their assessments done, driving out to Chilliwack. It was very taxing on the children. They didn't enjoy the process at all. I just kept trying to reaffirm how important it was for them so that they could have what they needed. I said, Mommy's going to make your life better.
Process of getting our kids diagnosed and funding and access to resources has been profoundly frustrating. And we're both like middle-class people with good educations who are both work in professions or can access lots of resources. We're well connected in the community. And a large part of my job is navigating paperwork. Like, I could basically navigate paperwork professionally. And there have been so many times where we have been feeling like we're hitting the wall, hopeless, sobbing at the end of our ropes. And for people who have, we're not like well off, but have a reasonable means, like access to more resources in terms of connections than the average person, for us to feel at many points like it is absolutely hopeless.
Yeah.
Like, and I see other people who we're connected with who are trying to access services for their kids, and they're also neurodiverse, or need to also apply for funding to get anything, or not. Like, it's just impossible. Yeah. I know so many people who are just saying, I can't access it.
I think a lot of primary care physicians who are overwhelmed and busy and tend to see more older adults when they get kids coming in and they're worried about ADHD, I think they don't necessarily understand how to make that diagnosis, and or don't, they think of sort of the cookie cutter stereotyped, hyperactive boy, and maybe that kid is sitting quietly in the office, or it's a girl who's distracted, but people realize there's a problem. And so they don't go down that pathway. So they don't go down and make that diagnosis, or they don't understand the medications. And so they're hesitant to do the assessment because they don't want to put kids on medicine. They don't understand the medication. And so they're worried about going down that pathway, and they avoid it, or they just say, oh, he's just busy, it'll be fine, you just need to discipline him more. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that if we treat these kids, identify it and treat it, we actually can see such better outcomes down the road. But a lot of family docs have so little time and so little experience that they just don't go down that way. And it's something, and so then they send them off to pediatricians, and our wait lists are now a year and a half. Mine ballooned up to 2 years. I had to recently shut my wait list down because it's just too long to wait to see somebody. We need to help those primary care providers get a better grasp of what ADHD looks like, that it is a significant impact on a child's quality of life, a family's quality of life, and that identifying it early is really going to help that family in front of them. And so we need to arm them with better information and strategies and resources.
Many physicians lack adequate training to diagnose ADHD, with over 50% reporting discomfort with making such a diagnosis. Fortunately, there are resources out there, such as the Canadian ADHD Resource Alliance's e-Toolkit, which offers comprehensive assessment and management tools. By embracing these resources, healthcare providers can help ensure more patients receive timely diagnosis and appropriate support for ADHD.